Live. This is exciting. I'll wait for the King's Head to give me a wave, potentially, to check to see how are we all doing. I can't hear you, but I hope you're well. Awesome. Cool. I've got a wave on Instagram. Thank you, Alex. We all good on Facebook? We're all good. Lovely. Hello, everyone. This is my first attempt at a live stream, so we'll see how it goes. I'm going to be looking from Facebook to Instagram, so that's what I'm doing, in case you're wondering. Awesome. Cool. Let's get to it. So thank you, firstly, to the King's Head for inviting me to do this. I hope you guys find it useful and or interesting, maybe both. We'll see. So I'm Sam Cochrane. I am the artistic director of Gigglemug Theatre. I don't know what artistic director means, but that's what I am. I also do some producing, directing, writing, and acting with Gigglemug. So I'm hoping that if anyone has any questions, I'll be able to answer them potentially. But we'll see. We'll see. And feel free to, if you ask questions, I'll just find a good point to answer them throughout the spiel. Awesome. Let's do it. So, Gigglemug means the word itself is a habitually smiling face. So someone that's kind of always giggling, always smiling. We thought that kind of worked really well for a theatre company name because we want to kind of make people smile with our shows, hopefully keep smiling throughout the day. So yeah, that's kind of the idea behind the name. And what do we do? So we do seriously silly musicals is our thing. So we're big on silly, we're big on musicals, and they're family friendly as well, which is quite a nice little thing. I think it's a little bit different to a lot of fringe musicals. I feel like, or musicals, comedy musicals in general. I feel like at the moment are quite shock humory. So it's quite nice to do something that's, I don't know, a little bit back to basics and just a bit silly, and the whole family can enjoy it. It works particularly well at the Fringe, we found. So that's kind of our audience. That's what we make stuff for. And also our ideas for shows aren't really mainstream. I wouldn't say. And I mean, for example, our only show so far, because we've got a couple in the pipeline, but our only show so far is Timpson the musical, which went to the Edinburgh Fringe in 2018, and then went on a tour afterwards. And I wouldn't call Timpson a mainstream kind of concept for a musical. And that's kind of our thing. Our next show is about the hit online game from my childhood, RuneScape. Runesicle is the name of the show. So we kind of go for quite niche topics for shows, which people seem to like or have so far, at least. I should say, someone just asked about artistic director qualifications. I have no idea. But I graduated from Warwick Uni in July, and so I've been trying to do this sort of full time since then. I studied history. I haven't used that degree yet. Maybe I will at some point, but not yet. So that's me, and actually Gigglemug kind of started at Warwick Uni. I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So cool. Yes. So what else? We've kind of developed our own style, I think, a little bit, which is sort of like a unpolished, improvised sort of style for musical theatre, which is a little bit different, I guess, to, I think, a lot of comedy musicals. Every gag, every line is kind of, it hits the beat at the right point. And we do stuff a little bit differently in that it definitely doesn't. Every show is kind of completely different because we like encourage corpsing. We encourage, I don't want to say making mistakes. We don't encourage that, but if someone does make a mistake, you can bet that another cast member will point it out to the audience. And that's where a lot of the humor comes from. And that's why it's so much fun to do, because every show is kind of really different. It changes a lot. And actually, we've released online Timpson the musical. It's free to watch on YouTube, so you can watch the whole show. And in that version, there are lots of things that go wrong, and we purposely kept them in because they're just really funny. And the one in particular, Rob Madge, who plays Monty in the show, he gets hit in the face with a loaf of bread completely by accident, and that had to stay in because I just love it. So yes, we have this kind of style which is a little bit different, and also the audience are very much a part of that, I think, and that's why it works. We try not to push things too far, and we try to make it so that the audience are always on board with what we're doing, what we're saying, if it is improvised. And I think it's quite hard to make something look thrown together. Maybe, I mean, I think it's almost like you have to rehearse something twice as much to make it look like it's improvised and kind of made up on the spot. That's what I'd say anyway. And also, all the characters in our show are kind of they're self-aware. That's kind of our thing, and we're doing that with Runesicle as well. It's like the characters sort of know they're being played by actors, which I think is quite a fun concept, and it makes it easier to break the fourth wall and that sort of thing as well. Also, I've got all my notes here in case you're wondering. Someone just asked, how much involvement did you have with Timpson the company on the show? Well, I will go on to that. I've actually got a whole little bit where I just talk about how much I love Timpson. So I will get to that. Don't you worry. You will get your Timpson fill. So yes, let's talk about first. So being silly is kind of our thing. Some people love that. Some people do not like that as much. So I think silly is quite comedy is subjective, but silly particularly is quite an acquired taste. So yeah, it's something that's just very us, and it's very fringy, and I think it works quite well. And also our shows are we're big on escapism. That's kind of our thing. Nothing really has any wider significance at all, which that's what I want to keep it as. Obviously there's lots of wonderful musicals making political statements or even implying things, or wider significance and that sort of thing, and they're amazing. But we're big on like kind of letting our audience see something for an hour and completely forget about what else is going on in the outside world. That's kind of our sort of what we go for, and I think that's how we'll keep it, at least for now. I'll talk a little bit before I go in some more detail about Timpson. I look like a Timpson super fan as well. I just noticed this apron, unintentional. So I'll talk about what inspires us as well. For me, the Mighty Boosh was a huge influence comedy-wise for me. I just loved them. I grew up watching them, and I thought they were so different to what I'd seen before. They were kind of doing silly in the mainstream, which was really cool. So much so that there's a scene in Timpson the musical where Monty has a fever dream about shoes, essentially, and we actually based the shoe costume on a scene from the Mighty Boosh where someone is a Narn-bred and has a Narn-bred costume, and the shoe costume is actually based on that. So that is what it kind of looks like. Little bit of Timpson trivia. You didn't ask for it, but you got it. There you go. Enjoy. So yes, that's what I love comedy-wise. Monty Python as well. It kind of goes to show that everyone's, particularly the UK, I think we've always been silly. And people have always loved silly since like Charlie Chaplin. I mean, slapstick humor and stuff, it has always been a big thing that everyone could kind of get involved in. Musically, like for I think the first comedy musical I saw was Avenue Q, and I just kind of fell in love with the genre from that. I remember looking around the audience and seeing everyone just in hysterics and like crying with laughter, and I thought, like, I really want to be a part of that. I really want to do something like that. And it's not for me to say whether Timpson did. I don't know, but that was kind of the aim, at least. Cool. Yes. So some people are asking about Timpson. Let's talk about it. Cool. So the origin of Timpson. What a weird thing. I'd always found it quite interesting that shoe menders and key cutters were two occupations in one shop. I just think that's so strange. Why is that not talked about more? And I think it was probably because Timpson was the best example of that. Arguably the only chain, I think. And business fact, James Timpson kind of ensured that by when he took over Timpson, he basically bought all the other potential chains so that Timpson was the big one, and now it's everywhere. I think people really know it, but in the back of their minds, like I feel like everyone's been in a Timpson shop at some point, but it's people still don't really know what it is. And so yeah, that was the idea. I was at Warwick Uni, and I was in an improv musical. You see the monkey up there, the improv monkey. And I was in that company with three other guys, Chris, Theo, and Tom. And I basically said, "There's this kind of concept that could be quite fun as a musical. What do you think?" And I don't think I really thought of it as a musical. I thought of it as just like a comedy thing that I might do something with one day. It was the point when we thought up the Romeo and Juliet parody, the Montesquieu's and the Capulets, and it being an origin story. And then we were like, yeah, okay, this should probably be a musical. This should be a Fringe musical. So that's how it kind of started at Warwick Uni. And so the first thing, obviously, you've got to do when you come up with an idea that's based on something like a company is you've got to ask for permission to do it. And so I just emailed James Timpson, because why not go to the top? I found his email online, and I think it's on the Timpson website. And so I just said, "Hi, we'd love to do this show about your company. Can we have the rights to your company name?" And he replied within like 12 hours, and replied saying, "I used to go to the Edinburgh Fringe when I was younger. I used to work there. Go for it. Yeah, do it." And that was it. There wasn't anything else to it. I think normally with companies, they are a little bit more reluctant to give away the rights to their company name, but Timpson were very, very chill about it. And that was that. And then we got going. I think I mentioned, so it's a parody of Romeo and Juliet, but I wouldn't call it a parody of Timpson, because we obviously got the company on board with the project, and they eventually sponsored it as well, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So it's a little bit different to other, I guess, traditionally parody musicals. They are parodies because they don't have the permission of the creators of the source material, if that makes sense. And a lot of the time, the creators, don't approve of their content being turned into a musical as well. So it was a little bit different for us, because we very much said, like, "Are you okay with this? Can we do this?" And actually that relationship then kind of blossomed. And there was so much back and forth between us and Timpson. I will list some of the things that happened because it's just so silly. So Timpson vans transported our set to and from Edinburgh. We did discounts on the shows for the tickets were half price for Timpson colleagues, and if you had a Timpson receipt, I think you could get half price tickets as well. We did shows where we gave everyone an apron, particularly the shows when the Timpson family were in, because the Timpson family have all seen the show now. Literally I've met every member of the Timpson family, I think. They're all lovely, I will add. They're all lovely. And we had posters in their shops in Edinburgh as well, which really helped ticket sales, I think. And yeah, so, I mean, we got pretty close. James Timpson is on my CV as a reference. I actually introduced him at a talk. It's just very silly how kind of close we got, but they really enjoyed the show. And yeah, they kind of gradually gave more and more support, understandably, once they saw the content, rather than just being like, "Oh yeah, fine, go for it." I think I remember after we got the rights, it was maybe like a few months later, we'd written bits and pieces, we got it on its feet, and we sent them some videos. And James Timpson's response was, "I think I get it." So, and that was enough apparently for us to then be like, can you sponsor it as well? Would that be possible? Normally, they don't do marketing at all. Timpson don't do any marketing. All the money they make more or less goes back into the company and doing lovely things for their colleagues. I'm now going to talk about all the amazing things they do, but first off, we also did on the UK tour of Timpson. We also performed at Timpson conferences as well, which was just the most surreal experience. It's so strange because everyone, like Timpson colleagues, they're lovely, and they. It's just a strange experience performing to an audience of people where you are the entertainment, but they have no expectations. They don't know what they're about to see. They haven't paid to watch it. You were just there to entertain them, and that was it. And it was a really fun challenge. I'd recommend it to any actor as well, because you start off performing, and you're not getting a lot back. Understandably, maybe they're a bit like, "What is happening? Why am I watching this?" And then you kind of gradually try and get them on side, and then by the end, they were kind of on their feet, and it was just a really nice challenge because we were kind of tuning into what they liked, what they were laughing at. I think it was a lot of innuendo and making fun of them as well. And if someone heckled, we'd heckle back, and it was that sort of relationship that's maybe more common with an improv show than a musical for sure. So it was a lot of fun, and yes, please do it if you get the chance to perform at a conference, specifically a Timpson conference, because they're great. Yes, so Timpson were the perfect company to base a show on by complete blind luck. I didn't know anything about Timpson before coming up with the idea, and they are just amazing. They do so much. 10% of their colleagues are ex-offenders, so that's why there is a bit of that in the show itself. If you're homeless, they'll wash your suit before an interview, and they do loads of charity work with the Alex Timpson Trust. They pay for their colleagues to go on holiday. They're just the dream company, and they also all have Mr. Men names as well, which is just a Timpson thing. I don't think all companies do this. So, for example, a lot of my correspondence was with the director of happiness. Just adorable. And I actually got my own Timpson badge made. You can see that there, Absolute Gigglemug, since 2017. They're just amazing. I love them. And also, another one, as well as performing at Timpson conferences, which I would recommend you do, find a way, also go to the Timpson headquarters, because they have a swimming pool with a wave machine and giant shoes and fireman's pole. It's like a theme park. It's amazing. Just do it. Find a way. Awesome. Yeah, so the sponsorship, it'll be worth talking about because that might be useful to some people. The way we saw it was that it was really good marketing for them, and we knew that they didn't do marketing. So, why not? And this is quite a fun marketing move, and also engages a completely different audience maybe to what they are used to. And it was because obviously the show, the name itself is Timpson the Musical. The flyers all had a Timpson logo on, and in Edinburgh there's a lot of flyers out there. Thousands and thousands of flyers and posters and stuff with their branding on. So I think it was quite a good move, and obviously as it started to get some nice reviews and stuff, it reflected quite well on them, I think, as well. But that varies between businesses. So for RuneScape that we're working on now, it's a very different case because we're working with a company that is run by a lot of different people, and a lot of people have to have say, which is completely understandable, rather than it just being like, you ask James Timpson and he says, yes, go on, do it, here's some money. So it is it varies a lot between different companies. I'll talk a little bit about RuneScape quickly, because we've just announced that we're doing it. The show will premiere in 2021, which is the RuneScape's 20th anniversary, which is quite a nice little coincidence how that works. So we're going to the Fringe then, and also hopefully doing some shows before, but we will keep you updated on that. And they're about as niche as Timpson. I don't know whether people have heard of the game RuneScape or played it. I'd recommend it. It's so much fun. It's just wonderfully silly as well. So it works really well as a premise. They've won a BAFTA. They had the Guinness World Records for the most online accounts of any game ever. It's like 280 million or something ridiculous. So that's our next show. You can look forward to it, and it's going to be multi-pathway as well, which should be fun. So the audience choose where the characters go and that sort of thing. Awesome. And cool. Back to Timpson. So pre-Edinburgh, I think, was the point when we knew this was going to be something people were going to talk about, because articles sort of started coming out about the show before anyone had seen it, based purely on the premise, I think, and the kind of description of the show. And that's in like time. There were 2 in Time Out. There was a Telegraph one. This was all in July before Edinburgh. So it was mad. And we then, the BBC then did a segment on us as well, which you can see if you scroll back on our Facebook page somewhere. That will be there, I think. And yeah, so it started just getting publicity. We did 2 previews, one in Stockport for Timpson colleagues, one at the other palace, and then we went to Edinburgh, of course, and more just ridiculous things happened where our second preview, we got a really nice review from the stage, and kind of off the back of that, lots of people came to watch, and I think we were starting to sell out by our second week. And then the Fringe finished, and we won the stage award as well, which was just, that was not even a possibility in my mind. I never even thought that could even remotely happen. So yeah, it was a fun little adventure. And off the back of Edinburgh, we secured our tour, which kicked off with the King's Head. There you go. So come back round to the King's Head. There it is. 3-week run in London, which was a lot of fun. Very different space, a lovely space. I mean, brilliant. It was so much fun. I again recommend it if you. I'm sure you know about the King's Head because you're watching me on the King's Head, so I don't need to plug the King's Head, but check them out. And also we went to the Old Joint Stock in Birmingham. We went to Brighton Fringe. Go to Brighton Fringe. I had one of the best nights of my life listening to their. Basically, they have a silent disco, but you can choose what genre of music you want, and one of the genres was country music. What amazing! Welcome to the future. We're living it. I can't get enough. And then we went back to the Stockwell Playhouse to finish our tour, and that's where we filmed the show. And so now it's available to watch on YouTube, which again, more blind luck. People are looking for online theatre. We did not expect that to happen at all. And so it's there if you want to watch something silly for an hour and a bit. So it's strange how that's kind of worked out. And I mean, for me, the reason behind filming it, the Stockwell run was always about filming it for me, because I grew up watching Star Kid musicals, which, I think that shaped a lot of my sense of humor. So like a Harry Potter musical, a Harry Potter sequel, I would stand by, is one of the best shows ever. And for me, it was kind of always a goal to write a musical and film it and put it online. So that's where we're at with Timpson. Yeah, so you can check that out on YouTube if you are interested. It'd be worth as well talking about Gigglemug Sounds is our latest kind of venture. So it's kind of that idea of making your work available to as many people as possible. That's sort of something that we've always wanted to do. And it's really nice that we're able to do that in different ways. So, for example, our podcast platform. So Gigglemug Sounds is for scripted comedy podcasts. We've just released our first one, which is all available to listen to. It's called Archergeddon. It's a parody of the Archers set in the apocalypse. You guessed it, very good. And it's really fun and different. I think quite a different kind of humor to Timpson. It was like a nice little adventure we went on making this, and the cast is really cool. It's got Mel Gedroich as the lead in the series. She plays my mum. It's fun. Obviously Mel from Mel and Sue and the Great British Bake Off, and all sorts, Children in Needs. She's amazing, and she is so much fun to work with, as is Susan Harrison and Justin Brett from Showstopper, who were also involved in the series as well. And James Sterling from Timpson was involved too. So it was like a really fun little gathering of these silly actors, people who were just really willing to get stuck into something. And yeah, and so it's about a village called Bambersham, and Jane Barclay, who was played by Mel, and Jane's she's head of the parish council, and it's her job to oversee the Easter fete, but also the apocalypse has just started, so she needs to deal with that as well, and it's their sort of adventure. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a little bit different, and feel free to check it out. It's on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So wherever you get your podcasts. Yes, cool. Let me just see if there are any other questions, because I have to wrap up soon, I think. Does anyone have anything they would like to say? I'm just searching. I live in Edinburgh. You should do a whiskey one next. Lots of sponsorship possible. Wow. Yeah, that is a good. I mean, the thing with it was funny after we did Timpson, lots of people were saying, like, what's next? I think Paul from the stage said, are you doing a Greg's one next? And other people were like, oh, what are the supermarkets and stuff are you going to get involved in? I can tell you we probably won't ever do a supermarket themed musical, or shop related musical. It's quite nice to, I think what I want to do is a completely different premise for a show each time. So we want to keep working with companies, because theatre's expensive and it's a lot of fun actually, and just the silly things that happen to us on the way. We went to RuneFest. We got VIP tickets to RuneFest, which is RuneScape's like fan convention, and they had like a volcano that erupted every half an hour. I mean, it's just mad. So we love working with different companies, and it's quite a nice, because they're all so different, it's quite a nice challenge each time, I think, as well. So yeah, that's me. I'll check. I think I've answered any questions people have had. Cool. So I will wrap up. So yes, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. At the Gigglemug is our handle. If you want to keep up to date with, Timpson, Armageddon, but also Runesicle and when we will be performing that, give us a follow and check out what we're doing. So you can check out Armageddon, the podcast that we've just released on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple Music. And Timpson the Musical is all free to watch on YouTube as well. So if you want to just watch something silly for an hour and a bit, it's all there for you to enjoy. Starring, Edward Timpson makes a cameo role, not starring at all. But he's very good, surprisingly good for someone who's, rarely steps on stage. I was very impressed. Anyway, enough about Edward Timpson. Cool. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This was really fun. First live stream attempt and would do again. Thank you. I hope you maybe found it useful and or interesting. Just a reminder as well that King's Head Online is happening every weekday at 1. They've got some really awesome people talking. I think Pippa Evans did one the other day. I mean, it's such a good idea. So do check them out. And you can follow their social media for more info. Cool. That's it from me, I think. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and see you soon, maybe. See you at Runesicle, hopefully. Have a good one.